Before this video starts, I'd like to address an issue that up till now has not been addressed on this channel. I am a giraffe now. Anyway, on with the video.
Hello everyone, I am LittleNorwegians, internet raccoon enthusiast, and I'm here interviewing Farel over an interesting anecdote he shared with me about some PlayStation 1 memory cards that he's just managed to save some data from, on which contains some accomplishment that he's going to share with us. So, give an introduction. What's your relationship with the PlayStation 1 system in particular? We are both fans of this classic console, of course.
Yes, we are. I know that I originally bought it from a friend who was just buying a newer console at the time. It must have been late 2001 or maybe early 2002. It was certainly when Final Fantasy IX was the brand new game that everyone spoke of. So that must have been the time.
Oh, so you weren't on the Final Fantasy VII ride as so many other people were?
No, it was that friend of mine. He and his brother, they bought the console right away, all the full hype. But I just saw the console at their place, played a few times, and did not even consider buying one. It just for myself, it just seemed expensive at the time.
Interesting. This was, you said 2001, that's the era of the PlayStation 2 arriving.
Yeah, it was coming. Yeah, that must have been it. They were buying a PlayStation 2.
I was just about to ask if that was the rationale behind them selling theirs. So then that's...
Yeah, I know they also kind of bought a GameCube at the same time, so I was kind of stopping myself and questioning, was it the GameCube? But no, of course, the GameCube came after the PS2, so it was the PS2.
Yeah, unless they bought a Dreamcast, which arrived before the PlayStation 2.
Oh my goodness, you're right. They did have a Dreamcast too.
So they had everything. All right.
Yeah, they kind of did. They were the cool kids from the neighborhood, and we loved coming over to play all those games.
But going back to you then, that I have to say it's very impressive then, because you had quite an extensive library of some games and accomplishments, which you're gonna talk about soon. I actually didn't know it was that late in the game, so to say. So
yeah, I never was the kind of guy who bought consoles as early as possible, and I always had a backlog of stuff to play through, I guess.
The audience will be happy to know that I did semi-pressure you into getting a Nintendo Switch. So he is up to date, people.
Yeah, I sure am.
All right, but okay, this that's how we got into it. Now we could probably start talking a little bit about the kind of games you played before getting into the memory cards themselves and the data recovery there.
Well, the games that I played were practically all of them were Square Soft. That is Square. That's Square Enix before the merger with Enix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were those games, those RPGs. To explain, before I was just this kid who played on his NES, his bootleg NES, and I was the biggest Mega Man fan, just a little platformer games. But then over at the friend's place, they had all sorts of games. Yeah, they were fans of Final Fantasy, so they had some Squaresoft games too. They were interested what else the company does, and among those games was Legend of Mana, a JRPG, but it was kind of an action RPG. So yeah, throughout all this time, they were showing me Final Fantasy VII, kind of trying to get me excited, thrilled about it, but to the young me, that was just Yeah, I heard people online say that as kids they called it a numbers game. Oh, just a bunch of numbers popping out of monsters as you strike them, and it's all sort of turn-based. Not very exciting to a child. But then I saw Legend of Mana, an action RPG where you just slash through enemies in real time, and that did feel exciting to me. That did interest me, so I got into it, and I started to get interested in the other games that the company had on offer, and eventually I got into turn-based RPGs too, and eventually the Final Fantasy franchise as well as a whole, and that's where my fondness of the whole RPG genre came from.
I see, I see. What other games besides Final Fantasy and Legend of Mana?
Well, there was Chrono Cross, the sequel to Chrono Trigger that a lot of people have mixed feelings about. Threats of Fate, also known as Dew Prism, another action RPG, also pretty interesting. Saga Frontier 2, and Vagrant Story, which was also like, well, it wasn't exactly an action RPG, it was also turn-based, but yeah, it was a very unique game.
Vagrant Story is still on my list. I need to play that.
Oh, it's really pretty hardcore and difficult, but quite an interesting game for sure.
Yes. Now these games, you mentioned to me that some of them in particular you devoted a lot of time to and had some accomplishments, and that was well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, RPG games tend to be pretty long. It takes a long time to complete them, especially the Final Fantasy games. But they often have additional elements that you need to do if you want to complete a game 100% to unlock all the various things inside them. Some things might even require you to use the so-called New Game Plus feature, where you restart the game holding on to some stuff from your previous playthrough and using that to complete even more difficult challenges that the game presents to you. I suppose I wasn't the type who even could just keep buying games, even if we were, a poor Polish family. Even if some games were pirated, it was still kind of a cut to the budget. So you just bought a game and you tried to get the most of it. So basically, complete everything max, get everything that you can.
Yeah, probably most in the community know about the very obvious ones. Typical examples are, of course, from Final Fantasy, which is, the Ruby weapon and all the weapons from Final Fantasy 7 and the accomplishments tied to that. But of course,
Yeah, Final Fantasy 9 had Ozma, so the Final Fantasy games, while they have a lot of collectibles, a lot of stuff to unlock, I would say they're kind of simple in their design. Like, there's an ultimate boss and stuff, and you have to defeat it. And that's basically the gist of it.
yeah, there's probably greater challenges in some of those other games. So I was wondering if you could just um, give a kind of summary or talk about these accomplishments, specifically what you've done, specifically the games, what you've done in them, uh, how much effort it took, and yeah, things of that nature.
Alright, so to just go through the games, well, it's very different for the games, but yeah. So basically, the Final Fantasy games, I have defeated all the ultimate bosses, and yeah, And that doesn't feel that special or memorable to me for some reason. And maybe Final Fantasy X, because yeah, that's a PS2 game, but that kind of counts as well to those memory card memories.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, the international version had an additional set of bosses, like yeah, in the original release of the game, the ultimate boss was like Omega Weapon, and that wasn't really that hard from what I've heard. I mean, as I've played the game, it wasn't that hard, but they added the Dark Aeons, and so like Dark Valivor, Dark Shiva, Dark Ifrit, like super strong bosses, and when you defeat all of them, you get to fight this crazy boss known as Penance. And yeah, I did try to kind of record myself fighting against him before this recording, and I completely forgot how to win at this fight. It was just so crazy, and I could have completed the game at around 75, maybe 90 hours, 90 extra to get all the weapons and all that stuff, but defeating that boss, I had to play for over 200 hours.
Oh,
So more than half of the entire playthrough was maxing out to be ready for that fight.
yeah. That's of course the interesting thing about JRPG accomplishments overall is that at least to a lot of us looking in from the outside, it seems patience and perseverance are more key factors than action games, because typical action games where if there is a very difficult boss, that boss will typically, by JRPG standards, be actually a really quick fight if you know what you're doing. It's just that you have to play this boss battle that is maybe 10 minutes at most. You have to play that for many hours until you can defeat the boss. But in a JRPG game, it seems associated with grinding in particular. It's a stigma there, as you say, to level up your characters to the max.
Yes, that's true. It takes a lot of time commitment, and of course there's different boss designs. Some fights could take you a really long time, but yeah, a lot of the time, most of the time is just preparing for the fight stuff. I'd say, but onto some other achievements.
Sure.
Legend of Mana is that game. Once you complete it, you unlock a thing, the so-called Forbidden Tome, which lets you increase the difficulty of all the fights. And it's interesting because in this game, the monsters can have different levels, all depending on when you unlock the specific area. Like over time, the monsters get stronger. So if you reach an area really late, then the monsters will have really high levels and stuff. But if you increase the difficulty, you can do stuff so that all the monsters are level 99 and and everything becomes really challenging. And it's kind of funny because everyone agrees that there's this like one boss which is the most challenging, but it's like in the very middle of the game, and it's just difficult because it has like an attack that's really hard to dodge, but it's like mostly the AI controlled characters have problems. Player characters can somehow manage it, but yeah, at level 99 it's like an insta-kill move. So I remember when I was having problems with that, I just asked my brother to help him to take the second controller and to help me out, because if you have two players, then the second player can control the other character. So this way I could he knew how to avoid the mega attack, but still the fight took forever. So yeah, that was the accomplishment there. Yes?
No, it's just well, you could be specific about names and such because maybe there's fans out there that will know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I don't remember the boss. I know it was some crazy plant monster in some siren's cage or something, but I'll look it up and put the info on the screen later.
All right, we'll fix
But-
it in editing.
Yeah, we'll do it in post. The
Yes.
next game, okay, but go through the games. Chrono Cross. That game. Also, I had an achievement in, but it was quite an interesting one. It was, there's games where people, yeah, okay, some people speedrun games, but some people do challenge runs. Like, for example, Final Fantasy VII, complete the game without using materia, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So in Chrono Cross, I was still very early on in my whole RPG experience. In that game, there's not that many stores with weapons. They don't really. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. At least that's how I understood it back when I was a kid. There was like only one weapon shop in the whole game.
Oh, really?
In one sit. Yes.
No, it's just really? That's JRPG with only one weapon store. That's a surprise. It has one at all. Then, when you say it like that.
Yeah. It was basically the idea that this store will get new weapons every now and then, and you should be returning to the city to buy new weapons. But because of Legend of Mana, I did not think that was the case. I thought either a store sells weapons or it doesn't, and whatever it sells, it'll stay there forever. So I was not upgrading my equipment. I just had what I bought and played through the game with what I could. At best, if I found something in a treasure chest, I could equip it, but the thing was, Chrono Cross is a crazy game. It has... I don't want to overestimate it, but when I say this, I'm definitely not that off the mark. It has over 50 playable characters.
Yeah, no, it has quite a lot of playable characters.
Yeah, and many of them have different weapons. Maybe there's even some stuff with armor, but basically, if I found, oh my god, this is a super powerful carrot, only one character in the game can equip carrots as a weapon, and I did not use her, so yeah, okay, I have a super powerful carrot, but who cares? And because of how weak my equipment was, I had such problems with all the monsters. Every single boss enemy was just whacking the floor with me, and I did not understand it. And I beat all of Disc 1 with that accomplishment, not buying any gear past the early game. So I could not progress through the first boss on Disc 2, some giant robot. I had such trouble, and then I understood. I'm not sure. Did I ask on Game Facts for the first time or something? But I found tips to just buy the weapons. I bought them, and I defeated the boss almost instantly. And I found out that the game is actually pretty simple if you keep your equipment up to date. But because of how I unintentionally gave myself this enormous handicap, the game was quite a challenge, quite a memorable challenge.
Yeah, I can actually very much relate to that in a way.
Oh, really?
Have you ever played Earthbound?
No, I didn't, but I think I saw dozens of videos about it, so enough to kinda probably understand what you'll be referring to.
Well, it has an interesting thing. I played it quite early on for the first time. Quite early on in emulation. and it has a sort of mechanic where your dad is actually sending money to your bank account in the game. And so when you defeat enemies, you're not gaining any money. You're just getting items and such. So and there's a whole system where you're supposed to use an ATM card to get the money out of an ATM, and that's how you get your money. And like the excuse is that the more time passes, the more money your dad is essentially wiring to you. I think that's the justification. But anyways, I didn't know about that because. I didn't know what an ATM was or an ATM card. I knew quite a bit of English at the time, but I didn't know what that was. So I walked around in the game, and early on you just fight dogs and crows mostly, and the only thing that they really drop is cookies, which you can sell for like a couple of dollars. And I went around defeating enemies and selling cookies so I could buy equipment. Only later, after like defeating the first big area of the game, the first town in the game, did I quite understand that I could use the card, and then suddenly I had this enormous amount of money in the bank account. I could buy everything I needed 10 times over. So it was actually a quite satisfying feeling in a way. And it was like, that explains the difficulties I've been having.
Oh my, yeah, that I guess that can happen when you're a child and English isn't your first language and you get those problems understanding. But it also proves that you can overcome these challenges and still persevere.
Yeah, absolutely. Carry on, please.
So I guess Threads of Fate, that game did not really have that many extra challenges. Saga Frontier 2 was super challenging, but as I've said in my review of it, it was mostly the final boss battle, so nothing too extra technically. And the Persona games also did not have that many extras, so that leaves the 3 major accomplishments, starting with Unlimited Saga on the PS2. Yeah, that crazy, notorious worst game of all time. I did complete it with all 7 characters, and I have all sorts of save files, not just for the final battles, because I kinda wanted to contain that so I could just reload the save file and play against the final boss of each of the 7 characters. Yeah, that took a really, really long time to complete, of course. Each playthrough is like 40 hours long. If you want to max out everything, it might reach even longer than that, maybe even 60 hours. Admittedly, the biggest secrets are not even that hard to get in that game. It's like, again, mostly time commitment to complete all the quests, to unlock a secret bonus quest, which, there's more difficult enemies in the other quests, so it's kind of an odd thing to include as an extra. But yeah, once I did that, I completed the final boss, and for the first time, you get to see the end credits and one final artwork of all the playable characters in the game together on one screen. It's really quite beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And then there's Romancing Saga, Minstrel Song, the hardcore game that I'm basically a saint on the internet. People worship me, so to speak.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not kidding. I'm the one person who uploaded a video of what happens if you complete all 8 characters. The video segments for each character, then all the unique things that you can get for a specific character. I remember in the past I did complain on the GameFAQs forums that this is kind of badly designed game. They should have made it easier to. If there's so little unique stuff in one playthrough, it should be easier to get. Not play through the whole 40-hour playthrough for just a few cutscenes, and people were like, "Ugh, it's not like you have to do it. No one's forcing you. Stop complaining." Then one day I present the videos, and the very same people, "Oh my god, thank you, dude. I did not. I only beat 2 characters, and I had to stop." Yeah, they were talking big. Okay, maybe they were not. They were right. No one's forcing you, but I wanted to see all the characters, everything they had to show, and I decided I could record it and show it.
And for that, the internet was grateful.
Yeah. They still every now and then I get a comment on one of the videos, and people are really grateful for me sharing it. And I would have done the same for Unlimited Saga 2, but there was a different YouTube channel that was going through that game, so basically all I contributed for Unlimited Saga was just my review and a video of a secret ending, because one of the characters has like some options where if you do this, you get a different final boss for the scenario, so I kind of recorded that and uploaded, but yeah, that's basically it.
Links in the description, everyone.
Oh yeah, sure. So, the Romancing Saga, Final Fantasy X, and I guess the Persona games also consumed a lot of time, but the most hardcore achievement might be one for a game where it wasn't even that long of a playthrough, and that's Vagrant Story. That it feels like that game was made with that hardcore player mindset. Not only is it pretty hard, there's also it's kind of crazy to think because achievements are a big thing now in gaming. If you play on Steam, lots of games have those achievements. I think, PSN Network also allows you to display achievements that you have gotten in the game. Some games even have achievements within themselves, not even as a separate system. It's all incorporated. They just expect players to want to do a little extra stuff, and and it would be nice if it was an actual real achievement listed on here that you can show off and prove, yes, I completed this, I obtained this. And Vagrant Story, despite being such an old PS1 title, did have such a thing. There's a section with achievements.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I did not unlock all of them. There's like an achievement for attacking, I think, 500 times with a specific weapon, and for every weapon you get one, so I had my favorites, so I did not use every weapon type, just my favorites.
Spears?
I sadly no, as far as I recall, spears were a two-handed weapon, and everyone said, "Dude, you should have shields on, ditch the two-handed weapons." Yeah, so sadly again, they kinda crossed my plans there.
Oh.
But yeah, the game, I did complete it once, a second time, and I remember it was, there was a set of achievements. Complete the game without using magic. Complete the game without using battle abilities. Complete the game without using break arts. That was also some type of technique. Maybe without using combos as well. I forget, but there was also an achievement. Complete the game within less than 10 hours. And complete the game without saving. And I remember the GameFAQs guide that I read on it, and to that achievement it said, if you complete this, challenge, then either you are insane or very good at Vagrant Story. And I was kinda all the time laughing about it. That's insane. That's ridiculous. But one day I was sick. I could not go to school. And I was all home alone. And I was wondering, what could I do? And I was looking at the PsOne and I felt like, yesterday I beat the game a second time. What if I tried to get that achievement? Like, all those achievements. I'll try to get all of them and we'll see how well I do. So I launched the game, started playing, and since I had all the stat boosts from 2 complete playthroughs, I was really whacking through everything throughout most of the game, and I was like progressing on and on. Then suddenly the doorbell rings. One of my classmates came along to bring me my homework, and like, shit, and I'm like pausing the game, and shit, the timer will run while the game is paused. Yeah, that's how it works in a lot of games. Shit, like, come on. I'm always pissed off when games do that. Come on, you should pause the timer when the game is paused. But okay, I just pushed it, turned off the TV screen, let the game on, and I was going through the homework with him, taking notes. But I was really rushing it, and I did not want to tell him what I was doing. I just basically kicked him out of home as fast as possible, and I got back to the game, and I was literally before the final boss.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Clutch moment.
Yeah, and I wasted almost an hour. Maybe in my head it felt like 2 hours. And I was standing before the last save point, and I was kind of thinking for a moment, the final boss is ridiculously difficult. It's an insane fight. Should I save? But then I felt like, that complete the game without saving achievement, that's so valuable. I should do it. I should try to get it. And I fought the final boss and I won. And it was under 6 hours.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I got this whole set of achievements in one playthrough. That's what that might be my most proud achievement, because yeah, Romancing Saga, Unlimited Saga, all those games, but that was still like grinding through stuff. Yeah, it's a commitment of time that's worthy of praise as well, but this felt kind of different. Like you add those extra challenges. It's not just that you're okay, maybe I guess I was so super strong that I could pull through, but it still felt different as a challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have it in my save files. I have the save file. I could open it on my emulator, and I have proof to show it. That's how I beat the game.
Footage on screen, I guess.
Yep.
Right. So you have these memory cards. And far as I understood, you got a sudden urge to sort of do a backup of these save datas. Want to talk a little bit about sort of why you did it and how you did it and what you intend to do?
Well, I can briefly talk about it. I guess me and my brother found our old PS2. And my brother just asked, what do we do with it? Do we throw it away? And all of a sudden I had this fear of losing all that stuff. Like, oh no, I don't want to lose it. I want to hold on to it. But yeah, I guess the console hardly worked. So it was not like I wanted to keep the console, but I wanted those memories to stay, to kind of hold on to them in some way, to be able to show what I've accomplished. So I looked up how to do it, and there are PS1 memory card adapters, but those cost like it was almost $100. That felt like insanely expensive for something that I'll only use once. I mean, I'll get the save files and I won't need it anymore. And selling that later to someone else, yeah, I don't see that happening. So I looked up online. There was some ways to put software onto a memory card, and this way somehow get a means to put PS1 save files onto a pen drive, a USB stick, and then you can put them on the PC. And then maybe there was some software, some memory card managers to kind of put them onto a single memory card file that an emulator could use, and yeah, it works. It works. I just had a problem with Final Fantasy VII and Saga Frontier 2 because those games I have specifically a PAL version, and I could not find proper ESO files for those versions of the game. But I'm not so sad over those losses, so that's fine. That's fine.
So it seems like absolutely, well, almost everything got over. So overall, it seems very successful.
Yes, it is. But it was it was strange. I had this firm memory in my head, but I opened up those files, I check, and I realized that things are a bit different than I remembered. Legend of Mana, I really thought I had a stronger character, like something more hardcore, but I'm not even level 99. 98, yeah, but almost, but still. Yeah, and yeah, I thought that I would have something to show for Persona 3 or Persona 4, but sadly no. I defeated the ultimate boss in 1. There's nothing more to show, or like I have completed the game. I have a completed save file, and it's just when I load the file, it just starts a new game. So there's not much to show there either.
Yeah.
And yeah, I admit, maybe I just feared losing these files, but
yeah,
maybe it's
because I was going to ask, what when you look at these files now, now that they're safe, and like what are these files to you specifically?
Well, they're memories of a distant time. Like I can remember some specifics. Being a child playing through the game, having specific memories, like Legend of Mana. There's a save file that my brother used. He also created a character, never complete the game, but because the game allows you to invite player characters from different save files, sometimes I would bring his character along for the ride.
Ah.
And yeah, there's all sorts of memories that I can associate with these memory cards. Like, again, Vagrant Story, being sick, Romancing Saga, all these accomplishments, which yeah, technically it might be worthless. Because with Romancing Saga, I did record a few extra things on my PC just by using cheat codes to instantly have this super powerful character, to instantly be able to enter the final battle. Yeah, but it feels different to know that these save files, I earned them, I worked hard for them, and I have this whole achievement, this whole story that I could tell about it.
Yeah, because some might argue that now that you have the files, a question becomes: all right, now you have the files backed up. Do you have any plans for anything to do with them, for instance?
Yeah, to be quite frank, I might never do anything with them. They'll just sit on my hard drive and lay there just as a memory. And yeah, when I think about it, if I'm so protective of these, why do I feel less? Do I hold less? Do I give less value to different save files? Like on my PS3, I completed Catherine Persona 5. That also required a ton of hours to complete, but if you tell me that, oh, you're gonna lose those files, then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna play the game again. It's fine. So it's that different perception. Perhaps it's because it's my childhood. Those were my first RPG games. Like, okay, I have a lot of memories from the NES era, but those games did not have save files. I have nothing to preserve. If I launch an emulator with one of those games, it's basically the same experience. But these games, I played through them a lot, a long part of my childhood, and it's kind of neat to be able to go back, remind myself of all this. But yeah, it is a strange experience coming to the game, and because it was a different perspective back then. Nowadays, I go online, I see YouTube full of playthroughs of all sorts of games. I hear about insane accomplishments and all that. I get a perspective, but back then, like Final Fantasy Ruby Weapon, like that boss, that ultimate boss, and I hear about how strong it is, and what's my reaction? Oh my god, that Ruby Weapon, I bet around the whole world, maybe like 15 people beat him, not more.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely.
Yeah, you don't. As a child without the internet back then, you don't understand how many people play these games and what people do, what insane challenges they overcome, and like Vagrant Story, I call that my most hardcore achievement, insane stuff. I looked it up. Apparently, the game has a score system. It's kind of insane, but the game gives you titles depending on how many points you've collected. And yeah, I have like 10 million points, and that's giving me like rank 8, and I'm like, oh my god, is that the max rank? Okay, maybe rank 10 is the max. Like, okay, I would have to get all the achievements for all the weapons and other junk that I did not do, but I must be pretty high up. And I check, and no, rank 8 is not the max, rank 10 is not the max, rank 16 is the max.
Ah.
And to get rank 16, you need 100 million points. Like, what? When I read that, and that was just last week, that was like the Street Fighter movie. Like, I'm Chang-Li, and this GameFAQs guide person is like M. Bison, telling me like, the day that you completed Vagrant Story without saving, that was the most important day in your life. But to me, it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was really heartbreaking, at least for a moment, because it was this realization that no matter what I achieve, it still was just a small drop, a small droplet in the bucket of things that you could achieve in this hardcore game. But I guess that's also a lesson to take from it. Does it mean that I feel like all the time that I have committed to all those games, finding out that there's so many people out there that have the same exact achievements as I do, does that make it worthless? No, that's still a memory of mine. I still feel good that I've completed it.
Means you have
I guess,
more people to relate to.
yeah, I guess it means that I wasn't so alone in this world, so to say. Coming up with this idea to complete the game like this, that I wasn't the only one who came up with that. Of course, that makes me less unique, but at the same time, it kind of means that people had similar ideas as I did, and we've all completed the game with these challenges where we're all we all wanted that extra piece of pie, so to speak, and yeah, we got it. Really, really something to be proud of.
Yeah. You mentioned some perspective, and of course, things are different now than we were kids. Would you ever consider doing what you I guess you would call it hardcore runs of games again? Not necessarily those you have on your memory cards, but any games really.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. There's been a lot of people who've been asking me to attempt a solo romancing Saga minstrel song run, and I know there's people who've done it, but it always felt like I don't know. It kind of seems like a pain to do. So I don't know. I definitely did beat a few ultimate bosses since then. That's still something that I do, but like a challenge run, I don't know. Maybe I would. Nowadays, when it comes to things like these, I mostly chase after achievements in Final Fantasy XIV, and that game, yeah, that game has an achievements menu. There's even sites where people calculate rankings of players.
Oh, really?
so yeah, and I sometimes check, and okay, I cannot compete with the Japanese players. They're insane. But on my server, which is called Phoenix, I am among the top 50 players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the achievements rankings.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, some of these achievements are just commitments of time. Like when I'll restart my sub next time, I'll definitely get the achievement for winning 500 chocobo races. Yeah, that takes a really long time, but I just told myself, I'll win 3 races a day and I'll do this for several months and eventually I'll get it. Yeah, but there's people doing much crazier things, but yeah, we're all chasing it, and but yeah, I try not to go insane. Like there's hundreds of achievements for fishing, but I don't like to fish in this game, so yeah, you guys can have that. I'll pass. And I think that's important. You want to do some crazy achievements, that's fine, but if you don't enjoy it, you don't have any pleasure out of it, then you should stop. You shouldn't push yourself.
Yeah, of course. It seems it takes a kind of person to do some of these crazy 100% achievements in these giant RPGs where most of the achievements, if not all of them, are essentially time related. Like you will get it within if you do it long enough. We recently watched a video about grinding to max level in Final Fantasy VII in the first area of the game, and by logic, anyone can technically do that because it is just about time commitment, and there's no difficulty after you reach a certain point of level. Like an hour in, none of the enemies in the game can really touch you. So it's all about sort of time commitment. And some people, of course, spend a lot of time doing things like that, and it is about time. And like if you look and see the things you want to do, you do those, and things that are just, well, you think are frustrating time sinks, then maybe you shouldn't do it because it's not in your interest, and it's not like you need to be number one to have fun or have something to brag about, really.
Yeah, you're probably never the only person in the world to get one of those achievements, and
Just look at the speedrunning community and how you have these titans who spend hours and hours and hours getting better at the game and speedrunning it and getting the world record. And they'll have the record for some time, but eventually they're gonna get beaten because there's always someone stronger or smarter. It's bound to happen either way, but it's really, I think, about the sense of accomplishment and kind of the journey in a way. People do in some strange way get hardened by the process. They probably become very, very patient people.
oh yes, yes. It's important to distinguish between a real a Herculean achievement that you fight for versus a cookie clicker game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can commit times, we can give meaning to what we try to achieve, and it can be great, but we should also remember to have fun, to enjoy it, and not just become a victim of compulsive gameplay mechanics that have no value or real heart behind it, so to speak. Not that I'm saying that winning 500 chocobo races is something with a lot of heart in it, but yeah, I want to get it.
Of course. And it is winning 500 chocobo races. It is by definition winning 500 races. So
it is funny because in that game you have your race chocobo and you have to level it to max rank to be able to win that consistently, and I have spent several months training it. I did a few races every day, but I remember someone online saying, dude, just race for 16 hours, you'll have max rank in no time. And that was like totally insane to me. What? 16 hours? I'm supposed to commit 16 hours in one day? Are you insane? No, it'll take me months, but at least I'll have fun doing it.
Yeah. Pacing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of important to do. But yeah. But that's the present. That's the future. I'll definitely get some other games. Get some. I'll be a completionist with them in the future. Get a lot of stuff, and those PsOne save files. Yeah, they're a good memory, and yeah, I guess they also again give me perspective on everything. That I really am a completionist. I like doing that with games, and yeah, those were my beginnings. That was when I learned that I liked JRPGs, that I enjoy these games, and I like to go a little extra with them.
Yeah. Any further statements before we close this picture book of memories on PsOne games and the memory card?
No, I don't think I have anything left to say. We've been talking for almost an hour. I think it'd be wise to wrap things up.
Yeah, well, you're the one who's going to have to edit this, so that's more work for you.
Yeah,
thankfully
I'll try my best.
Thankfully, you're the patient one among us. You're the person who can go and do 500 chocobo races.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for doing this interview.
And thank you for coming up with it. You're the one who had the idea for this, which I'm very, very, very grateful for. A great idea.
No problem. It was a fun anecdote, and it seemed like you had things to say about them, because in a way, for a person person like me, I have old memory cards, and I don't know, they might be rusty and broken and might not work anymore. And to me, that doesn't really matter. There are save files for things I remember, many games, many hours spent in Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7, things like that. I'm not too bothered if they suddenly don't work. Similarly with my old Pokemon cartridges, for instance, which I know don't no longer work. But it's different for people, and the way you talked about them, it seemed like there was a lot of memory attached. And of course, I was thinking, okay, you're putting in the effort to do these backups without really an end goal, like just doing the backups. But I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to share some stories about this sort of thing, so it wouldn't just be essentially a transfer from one data type over to another, and that'd be it. So that was the whole idea behind doing this interview, to hear a little story.
And that was a wonderful idea. I'm grateful that you came up with it, that you were here, and that you shared some of your own experiences as well.
Of course, I was interviewing you, so of course. But yeah, thank you very much for having this interview. I look forward to the end result.
Likewise, but alright, let's wrap things up before this goes for over an hour. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.